bright spot.
Summer had reached the island of Sodor, and the engines were feeling the heat. They were woken early and went back to their sheds late. To help the situation, the Fat Controller brought in a new supply of coal, but it didn't help. It was dusty, so instead of making the engines, and indeed their crews, lives easier, enormous piles of ash and soot collected in their smoke boxes. The result was more work, and drivers and firemen staying until well after they should have gone home in order to clear out their engine smoke boxes. James in particular had suffered. It grew so bad that he was restricted to the yard due to an accident some days earlier. While collecting empty trucks for his slow goods at the harbour, a spark had leapt from his funnel, setting a wooden truck alight. Although terrifying the other trucks into listening to his instructions, it alerted the Fat Controller to the problem, and it was he who took James off mainline duties, replacing him with Douglas, in case something untoward happened. "It's for your own good," insisted his driver. "What if something bad were to happen on the main line? It could mean a trip to the works." James did understand, but grew bored with shunting. The other engines teased him endlessly, particularly Gordon. "You're just like a fire engine, James," he chortled. "Bright red, loud. The only difference is you set things alight instead of putting them out." "I'm just as useful as you are," chortled Gordon. "I always run, come rain or shine, and I put fires out before. You should know that." One morning, as James shunted around the yard, the foreman came up to speak to him. "Morning, James," he called. "Douglas is ill. Could you take his stopping train?" James was thrilled, but his driver wasn't. "James can't travel long distances," he replied. "I'm afraid this dratted cold's causing all sort of bother with his smoke box." "But I'm stopping at every station," pointed out James. "He'll have plenty of time to clear me out if I get too bad." The driver argued with James, and then with the foreman. Eventually he had to admit defeat when even his fireman, tired of shunting in the yard himself, went against him. James was delighted and rode quickly away to the station. The Fat Controller was waiting at the platform when James puffed in. "I know you're not well," he said, "but don't worry. Just do the best you can." "Thank you, sir," replied James. "I won't let you down, sir." "That's a good engine. Good luck." And the Fat Controller strolled away back to his office. James waited eagerly to leave. He was confident. There was little smoke, and his tubes felt clear. When the guard whistle blew and the flag was waved, James nearly pulled out with the coach's coupling instead of with the entire train. Soon they were running nicely. Clinker, however, collected over the journey, and this slowed them down considerably. James was running late by the time they reached the junction, and he was exhausted when they reached Edward Station. "Phew," he exclaimed. "I never thought running a train would be this hard." His driver groaned. "You're a very silly engine," he scolded. "We're running late, so I can't clear you out. We have to carry on." James did feel silly. His driver went to the station master's office and spoke in quick, hushed tones on the telephone. "I've had a word with control," he said. "They've arranged for Bear to carry a train on, but he's at Marin. We've got to get there first." As they approached the bottom of Gordon's Hill, James began to choke. Smoke came out of his funnel in fits and starts, ashes landing on the trees and grass. "Steady," warned his driver. "You're sparking." "You," James panted. "I can't stop here. Gordon would never let me forget it." James tried his hardest, and partway up, an enormous cloud of ash and soot shot out of his funnel. "Well done, James," James smiled at his fireman, and there was a ringing, and James's brakes came on with a groan. Someone had pulled the emergency cord. The fireman looked back. Oh, glory, look at that! The driver did so and was amazed. The hot ashes and sparks had caused a small fire, which was growing in size and spreading quickly up the dry grass. Come on, James, he said. We'd better get out of here. He released the brakes and advanced the regulator. James responded with a will. It's almost here! Snorting and wheezing, James pulled the train up the hill, out of the reach of the flames. When James arrived at the next station, they explained the situation to Bear while his driver rang the fire brigade. While they waited, Gordon rolled mournfully in, wheezing steadily to a halt before the station platform. What's wrong, Gordon? Asked James, feeling a bit hot under the footplate. What? Wheezed Gordon. Yes, fast running, high speed pressure, this blast of new coal. It does wear an engine out, so... I thought engines like you could stand the heat. Gordon frowned. Well, none of it is perfect. I say, James, you were restricted to the yard. What the blazes are you doing here? Blazes is the right word. The local fire brigade bravely went to put the fire out, and single track running was put in action that afternoon, while the breakdown gang replaced the track with Burko and the cranes. Ah, well, said the fireman. At least you got rid of most of those ashes. Bear took James's train on, while James was turned around and helped Gordon and the express home. Thankfully for James, Gordon was respectably quiet when they passed the now brown patch of grass. Inevitably, it was Edward who lightened the mood, bringing up the subject of fires late that night in the shed. We've all heard about the fire on your hill, Gordon, but I'd like to know which one of you bright sparks set it off. The engines laughed when the fat controller stepped in before standing proudly on the turntable. Now, I know you've all been struggling with this new coal, but I have some good news. Another shipment will arrive tomorrow morning, so... The rest of his speech was cut off by the engine's cheers and shouts, along with their crews. The fat controller waited for it to subside before finishing off with, "So I hope to see you all blazing ahead for the foreseeable future."